Hello, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. I want to talk about the marketing of evil because I'm pretty sure that on some level you're perfectly aware of what's going on here. It's been going on for a long time. And on a lot of these types of things, we lack the concepts to express the ideas of what's going on. Our own nature blinds us to the motives and tactics of many people. And the marketing of evil has been going on in America, in Western culture, for a long time. And that is what we're talking about. We're talking about culture here. We're talking about the social environment in which we all live, in which we all exist. And it's a fascinating thing because when it's not influencing you in a particular sphere, it's a non issue. We don't regard it. And as interests attempt to make inroads in these cultural ideas, we take it for granted until slowly the culture around us adopts these ideas, and then you're in a totally different environment. For example, feminism. Imagine that you were a marketer, an advertising person, well educated, really good in your field, plenty of experience, top of your field, and you were hired to market, change the perception, influence the culture to adopt feminism. What would you do? How would you go about it? Well, surely you would portray your cause as noble, as virtuous. And certainly you would point out the injustices, the problems with the existing system. And as time went on, you would avail yourself of every opportunity to demonstrate the negative qualities of the culture, of the environment, for not adopting your views. And if you broke that down, right, that overall arching goal, if you broke that down, you would realize that, there's several ways to accomplish this. One of the ways that you could do this is you could portray anybody who doesn't go along with your noble cause as unethical, as immoral. So any opposition to your cause is injustice. It's not a legitimate concern because the basis of the cause is so noble. So any opposition to it clearly, demonstrates the objector's unworthiness. And since the cause is in fact so noble, or at least you believe, or at least you are professionally required to represent it as such, whether it is or isn't, there's a ethical switch that almost gets turned off at a professional level. That's why I'm talking about it in this way. Your job would be to represent that cause in the most favorable light, and those who opposed it in the most negative light. And what you would be attempting to do over time is influence the culture, influence the environment in which individuals are, so that they would come to accept your goal as noble, as worthy, as, well, worthy. And the opposition to your goal as, of course, unethical, immoral, unjust. And you would color all of your stories in this lens. You would interpret everything according to this lens. And you would push your narrative according to this lens. And it wouldn't matter if somebody had legitimate concerns and brought up specific issues, because if you couldn't respond to those specific issues, you would simply point out the noble overarching goal of your movement, of your goal, of your campaign, of your client, and suggest that any opposition to that is, of course, immoral and, worthy of ostracization, of being ostracized, of being shunned and cast out from the group. See, that's the goal. You're trying to influence the ideas of the group, the culture. Excuse me. There you go. And as a professional, you wouldn't concern yourself with the truth. You would just concern yourself with your job. And that's exactly what's been done. So any large moneyed interest that wishes to change the perception of the masses of the culture will, of course, use media in a direct, obvious fashion. But as I said, there's this subtle undercurrent of what they're doing. And as I said, it's, reshaping the minds and the opinions of the masses. So naturally, as a man in the 1950s, right, as a decent man, let's make that assumption, right? Let's put that rejoinder in front of it. You're treating women with, respect and dignity, but of course you're also adhering to the social norms of your day and age. And you're approached with the idea of feminism. Well, first of all, you're clearly going to be pointing out that you do not treat women with disrespect. And no doubt at the same time acknowledging that the culture in many ways does. And that there are biological considerations as well. Like you can't just draft women into the army because they're not prepared to provide for their biological needs. But on the whole, you're probably quite agreeable to it, even though it flies in the face of traditionally accepted social norms, that being a mother, a housewife. It occurs to me that it's worth mentioning that I think one of the main reasons why men didn't really have women in business is because it is cutthroat. And I don't even think that the business that we have now is representative of what it represented then. As if the men were protecting, the finer sensibilities and the sensitivities of the female from, this environment. And, the thing that's happened is that environment, that work environment, has had to accommodate and adapt to women, not women having to adapt to it. This was quite literally, the camel sticking its nose in the tent. And then eventually the entire camel is in the tent, right? Or your dog, just trying to lay down on the edge of the bed or something, right? And then before you know it, the dog is just like pushing you out of the bed. And that's this subtle influence of advertising and marketing, this attempt, to influence the ideas and the opinions of the masses, of the culture. So, bottom line, right, I'll tell you now, is you're stuck in this marketing, advertising game where the truth, what we would consider to be good and virtuous and noble and life-affirming, has been perverted for marketing, for advertising. And, your complaints, your railing against this immoral, unjust, unsustainable behavior is for nothing, because the scale, the scope of this influence has shifted. It's too large. It's too pervasive. So, holding on to what you believe to be the noble, worthy ideals, the social norms and practices that you exist in, can very easily be marketed and advertised out of popularity. And it's done. It's not like, oh, this can be done. No, this is done, and this has been done to some of the most fundamental, basic ideas, basic Judeo-Christian ideas. It's an advertising campaign. It's marketing. And it works. And it works on a mass mind. So even if you dismiss it, and even if it means nothing to you today, individually, the culture in which you exist is being shifted so that the ideas and the ideals and the principles and virtues that you have will in fact work against you. And this is, of course, unjust. It's not only unjust, it's unsustainable, right? Like a house divided unto itself cannot stand. So this is the scope of the thing you're dealing with. And the people that you're dealing with are, in fact, shaped, molded, taught, conditioned by this mind, by this media, by this institution. And, I really can't put too fine of a point on it, because to do so would open me up to the very attacks which I mentioned are stock and stable of, this type of operation. I put too fine of a point on it, and then I'm accused of, being against these noble, worthy goals. And I'm not against noble, worthy goals. So I hope this gives you some insight to the situation going on around you, to the trap around you, the idea of, gaining your validation from the world around you. And of course, it's telling you that the things that are worthy, that you value, that are principles, are in fact, signs of your toxicity, right? It's like a traditional man, likes to pursue a woman, right? It just seems to work better that way, down the road. So, at least, yeah, okay. That's a different video. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm just touching on this subject, on this topic, right? But let me know what you think about it. You see, because it applies to all of the other social norms that culture, society, seems to hold in the media, in education. Let me just make this one last point and further understand that these ideas filter down into culture, into media, okay? The failing is in the philosophy. This is where it all went wrong, okay? And epistemologically, it's an unsound environment in which our culture exists, because it's media, it's advertising. And we don't have the philosophy, the ideas, the concrete principles, that are really firmly entrenched and enshrined in our character to withstand this level of propaganda, of mass media cultural indoctrination. And understand that all of these things that we're talking about, that shape the culture that we're in, they are downstream of philosophy, of the ideas. It's like people think they're dealing with the important things, in the day-to-day life. It's like, no, it's the idea that's shaping the day-to-day life. Get the idea, and then you can adjust, the working of all of this. So that's what's going on. All right, I'll leave it at that for now. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate. I'd really appreciate that. And join me again, Howard Dare, as I hope to have more content for you. Thank you, everyone.